Recording started.
Talk show. Recorded live.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you're listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable Podcast. This is podcast number 655. My name is Eric Nielsen, and with me today, I have my regular co-host, Matt Lungeth. Today is Wednesday, July 26, 2023. Matt, how's it going?
Eric, I am well. I am back in the home office today after being remote from the field from Pittsburgh last recording. So happy to be back here in the office. The heat wave is coming here to the Mid-Atlantic. Over Thursday and Friday of this coming week, we are going to be in the high 90s with probably 80 to 90% relative humidity. So it is going to be typical July. But before we get to all of that, sir, my favorite questions. How are you? How are things out on the West Coast? And what is the color of the bay?
I'm doing great, Matt. We're ramping up for VMworld, put a quarter in the cup, explore.
26 days. 26 days as of today.
Everything is funded. We managed to squeak everything out. So everybody's going to be there. Matt's going to be there. Code Labs are going to be there. We made the Code Labs bigger. Boy, it's exciting times now. This is where the rubber meets the road. So we're busy. The weather's been beautiful here. It's been in the 70s and nice. And we don't have any of that humidity that you guys have, I've heard, famously are getting back on the East Coast. So happy times right now. It'll get dry in August, hot though. So I'm sure we'll suffer. I'm excited to talk about Oracle Cloud today, Matt. So that's what we hang here for a minute. We'll do a little bit of the Explore overview. I'll swing by Corey Romero. We got some good vExpert news going on there. I'm going to ask him the big question: how many vExperts do we have? So Corey, you can be thinking about that.
It's that time.
It is. So hey, Explorer's happening. Go reg if you haven't. You can always stay in the Excalibur for like $29 a night. And then sneak under the main tent to get in. I don't know how you're going to get your badge. Get a VMUG Advantage and come because the hub where we've got everything going on is going to be big. VMUG's going to be in there this year. We got Code Lab tables. We're doing GPT chat REST API Code Labs. That's going to be fun. We expanded the number of seats, so there are, I think, another 100 slots open for the labs, or it will be this week. So stay tuned for that. So that's good. We've got the Code Theater with all the code sessions. Alistair's going to be here recording. There'll be brown bag sessions. VMUG's in the booth. We got a studio. We have a spreadsheet for the studio. If you want to do some broadcasting, there will be camera gear at the studio in the hub, so that you can get on a spreadsheet and make yourself look like you're live streaming from Explore.
Are we going to try to do an episode from out there? We've tried in years past, but
no, we've done in years past, and just based on the availability of everybody, it's kind of challenging because we always say yes, but then I'm pulled in 15 different directions. So, for example, on Tuesday, I'm driving my minivan over to Vegas, right? So we can late ship stuff in the back of the van, and then I think I'm going to do a pizza run to like 6 different pizza shops for the community pinball museum party. Just because there's nobody that can order, a pizza for over 1,000 people come into the pinball museum. So that'll be fun. But so the answer to your question, Matt, is we always plan on doing this, and then the damage gets in the way.
Consultative error.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe we will, maybe we won't. But it's looking big, looking exciting. We're also
I looked at Reg. I won't share the number here publicly. We had set a number last week on the podcast, and we had given some rough numbers. But the internal number, it has picked up tremendously. I think turnout is really going to be is up there.
Yeah,
and it will be great to see all the members of the community and get back together again here in Vegas.
Yeah, and I know just for the CTAB org, we've seen a 30% increase in the number of members that are going to be there this year versus last year. So if that's any indicator of a good turnout, it would seem to be that it's going to be a busy year. Plus, we're in the Venetian this year, so that's a really nice
a little flavor difference, right, as far as venue and whatnot. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays.
I know we're going to publish notes on how to get to the Pinball Museum. So we've got a map.
Okay.
We've got a Google map. It's you're going to
Your
walk
epic
a mile.
walking path.
Yeah, you're going to walk a mile, but it's not that bad. There's a train to show you how to do that. Or as I say, if you really want the right directions, just open your iPhone, flip to the left, click on the Uber app, and then put in the Pinball Museum address, and away you go. No problem.
Here we are.
All right, Corey Romero, we'll flip to you for a second. I know the experts have been going on here. What's happening?
Hey, how you doing, everybody? So, Matt, I've got a question for you first. Should I be bringing cigars to?
Absolutely. We have started a tradition in Barcelona, and I think we need to continue it again in Las Vegas.
All right, I will order them and bring them. Yeah. So for vExperts, I've got some good news this week. We welcomed 106 new vExperts from 32 countries into the program this week, which brings us to a total of 1,503 vExperts for the program in 2023. Last week, we held a webinar with the vExperts with Rob Gerard, who is a vExpert, and the topic was Vast Data Overview with NConnect Performance Findings with vExpert Rob Gerard. Licenses for the new vExperts should appear in the Customer Connect portal this weekend, as long as there isn't any hiccups with IT, but everything has been submitted for the new vExperts to receive their licenses. And that's all I've got.
All right. Sweet. All right. Well, good job, Corey. Over 1,500. Always good to see new members show up. I know we had the lull of COVID where there weren't a lot of people doing evangelism and going to VMUGs and presenting. So it's great to see people back in action. So excited about that. All right, let's get to our guest today. So we have Todd Muirhead. I don't know how to say his last name, and Bob Goldsand. I think I got that one right. So let's start with Bob. Bob, we always start in the community podcast. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get here? What's your career arc look like? And make sure you unmute when you do this.
Thank you for the unmuting. Yeah, I almost forgot about that. But I've been with VMware 13, 14 years. I can't exactly remember. I'm a staff architect in the Strategic Ecosystems and Industry Solutions business unit. I came to VMware via EMC. I was in the CTO office at EMC doing technical due diligence for our acquisitions and investments in startups. So it was made a nice offer to come over to VMware post acquisition, and been working in the enterprise space since then.
When you came here, when you joined VMware, whatever 13, 14 years ago, how long did you think you were going to stay?
I had no idea, and VMware is just a fantastic company. I mean, the colleagues, the people, the culture. It's been a great ride. Right.
Yeah, I know when I came, I thought I was going to do 2 years here. I left Sun Microsystems and it was all Solaris and Unix and Spark. And I was like, I'm going to come here and I'm going to just spend 2 years getting used to Windows again. And, VMs were predominantly Windows. And I think, I'll spend just a couple of years brushing up on my skill set, around Windows, because I spent 15 years at Sun, and, you just dive into Unix and Solaris and, everything Sun, and you're kind of out of touch with the Windows space. So I was only going to stay here for 2 years, but then here I am, and it's like 17 years later, so it's a long time. Thanks for that. Okay, Todd, same question to you.
Sure. Yeah. So my name's Todd Muirhead. You're pretty close. People mispronounce it all the time. It's no big deal. I'm in VMware Performance Engineering. I've been here for about like a few months longer, I think is what it comes down to, like 14 years. I do database performance mostly, which is usually Oracle and SQL Server. I also did a stint with SAP HANA. I did the first testing of SAP HANA in a virtual environment and accomplished the first certification where it was certified by SAP to run virtualized. So I worked with starting up that team initially. Bob was also a part of that effort for a little while.
Nice. I remember when I first came to VMware. There was a guy, Eric. Don't remember his last name. Eric
Rieger.
What's his name?
Eric Rieger.
Rieger? No, it wasn't Rieger, but
No?
it ran the performance team at the time, right? And then it went to an Asian guy. There was a good guy as well. So I kind of have lost touch with who's over in performance these days. But yeah, great group. Yep. All right, with that, Matt, we're going to talk about Oracle and our Oracle efforts in the cloud. So why don't you ask these guys some questions?
So let's kick it off, right? There is many of our SDDC as a service offerings that are out there right now within multiple hyperscalers. And now we have for a considerable time period, and I'll ask that of Bob and Todd, of how long one has this been available as a solution, and why Oracle? Why have we chosen as an organization to roll out our SDDC as a service offering on the Oracle platform as a whole?
Well, the offering has been out for several years. I don't know exactly the release dates, but it's been out there. But more importantly, to your question as to why Oracle, Google is synonymous with search. VMware is synonymous with virtualization, and Oracle is just synonymous with the enterprise. And I think it's our, at least Todd and I, opinion that performance matters, and the way that Oracle has formulated their offering with complete customer control, as well as offerings on the AMD processor shapes, really makes it the choice when deploying enterprise workloads.
And let's talk about initial deployment sizes, right? For this particular offering, when I think of an SDDC stack, I think of 3 nodes. Is that into consideration here as well for this particular deployment? And then also, as far as the number of cores per host, let's just say we're looking at a customer that's looking to do a POC with this particular solution, what would be the initial configuration that a customer would require for both number of nodes, and then of those nodes, what's the minimum core that I could purchase to light up that POC?
I don't know the exact core counts there. Todd is more has the information on AMD's, but single node for a POC would suffice. But there's other, when we talk about number of nodes and also failover and high availability, there's some unique advantages when it comes to OCVS. And when there is a failure, it's fully customer managed solution. So when there is a failure, it's not an automatic remediation, meaning that a new host is not added upon failure. It's customer managed. And the ramifications of that is when it comes to Oracle licensing. And just to preface licensing, that's a discussion with the ISV and the customer. But fundamentally, if you have an automated remediation with Oracle and you add an additional host, then you have to fully license that host, whether it's physical or virtual. It's not a virtualization penalty or anything like that. But
so we're talking
Oracle
about licensing for Oracle. If we're going to be in full compliance with Oracle workload licensing, if that host within other solutions is on hot ready standby, we need to account for that to be in full compliance with those Oracle workload licensing, from what I'm hearing.
Exactly. So whether it's in use or not, you're going to have to license that host. With OCVS, you have the ability to manage that and add that host upon failure, or when you're alerted or some notification comes through. So you don't have you don't have to license that host until it's actually active. And there's also, I believe, a 24-hour window where you need to remove the other host Otherwise, you're going to have to pay licensing fees.
Okay. And then above and beyond POCs, what is the minimum number of hosts that are required? 3, I'm assuming?
Yes, 3 hosts.
Okay. And again, as within other SDDC requirements, that becomes a function of our vSAN capabilities, or vSAN requirements, I should say.
So with OCVS, you don't have to run vSAN if you don't want to.
So what would we be using for? We'd
Local
just
storage?
be provisioning compute and memory at that time, and what would we be using for our storage domain for those particular hosts?
But you can just use the local storage on the host. I'm not saying this is recommended. I'm saying it's possible. So if you're okay with that, you're not worried about the availability, right? You just want to run a single host with storage. You can do that.
Okay, so let's just say I wanted to go up and I had some native Oracle workloads that I have refactored, right? And I wanted to test deployments of native vSphere VMs that needed to connect to those apps, but I didn't want to go necessarily down the whole entire full-blown path of doing a 3-host deployment, again, in POC terms. So I could spin up a single host. I could deploy that single VM knowing that I'm not going to have that fault tolerance that's there, but I could do and check to see what performance would look like as far as connectivity between that traditional VM to what would be a native Oracle hyperscaler backed compute instance.
Yes, that's an option.
And just to mention, you mentioned refactoring. That's kind of one of the benefits when it comes to OCVS, is because you have full customer control. Customer has full control. They can set up that VM identically to how it is on premise, and that's the way that Todd and I did the testing. Is that we wanted to show that when you migrate from on-prem to OCVS, because you have that full control, you can set up the BIOS, the host, the VMs identically to what's on-prem, and not be concerned about a performance hit with, say, grayed out parameters that you just can't alter. So this is truly zero refactoring when it comes to migration.
I mean, for the test that we did, I just did a cross vCenter vMotion migration, right, of my VMs directly over to the OCVS environment, and then reran the test. So I didn't have to make any changes to my database VMs other than the network connectivity settings, right, to get it into that environment, so I could connect it to a client over there for the tests.
Sure. And what the reference that I had some questions in regards to is from our blog article that's over there on blogs.vmware.com, and it's entitled "Leveraging the Full Power of Oracle Cloud VMware Solution and VMware vSphere." And we dive into some performance of an Oracle DB in a single on-premises VM versus multiple VMs, in other words, spreading out that workload. And I see that there's 2 sides of this as far as the graph, where we have a little bit of a performance hit as far as migrating that workload in a single instance up to OCVS, and then a performance increase once we increase the number of VMs, even compared with the same number of VMs running on-prem. So in other words, 1-to-1, we take a little bit of a hit, but if we have the same number, 8's referenced here in the particular article, we see a performance increase. So Todd, let's dive into that a little bit. Why do we see the hit for the single VM, and why do we see the performance increase for the same number of VMs if we distribute that workload in OS3? The acronym city is going to get me today, guys. OCVS. Say that 10 times fast before I start reversing everything around.
So there were some slight differences between the configurations of 64 cores per socket. The storage setup was similar to both local storage, but the NVMe device a little faster. Yeah, so they're a generation newer, basically. So the storage is better, and that's why the OCVS configuration. My conclusion, or my best guess, is that the network connectivity between my client and host on-prem was very simple. They're in the same switch in the same rack. Whereas in the OCVS instance, the client VM that I was using was on a slightly different. It was definitely a different rack. I don't know the details. I wasn't in their cloud, but there was a little bit of infrastructure between my client and that. So I think that showed up as a little bit slower in a low.
So where the effective of where you were doing your jump box and where it was within the data pathway to where the DB lied could have had enough of an impact.
Yeah, a little bit. So and both of the results are really close. And we tried to get the configurations as close as possible. But it's not. We've only got what we've got in the lab to a certain extent, and I couldn't source exactly the same thing as what OCVS had. So we felt like the results were good and showed that indeed performance is essentially the same with a little bit of variation due to some smaller factors due to differences in configuration.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and just to add to that, one VM versus a host that's fully loaded. I think the fully loaded is a much better representation of what the customer is going to encounter. You're typically not going to run a single VM on one host, and I think that's where the we see the advantages of performance really come out.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Wherever we can distribute that workload and then distribute that workload amongst hosts or fault domains, not only increasing performance, but then fault tolerance and high availability. Bob, you talked about migrations previously, and of course the solution allows an easy pathway for a customer that might be looking to decrease their on-premises data center operational costs or consume those data center operational costs in a different billable model and moving over to a hyperscaler where we can build these services as all together. However, I want to take it a step further. That's keeping the database, let's say it is in a like for like service. So if I have Oracle running on-prem, I can easily migrate that workload if it is vSphere based over to this OCVS solution in a seamless way. But are customers looking at this as far as data mobility from a vSphere to vSphere-like platform, or are they looking at it as a stepping point to migrate what perhaps was that on-premises database to Oracle native DB services?
I think it's a mix of all of the above. And part of the goals of the benchmark as well as the white paper was to show that you can do exactly what you described. This is a like migration without having to worry about performance. But if the customer is, say, on an Exadata platform and they want to leverage a hybrid solution, being running their database on OCI and then the app stack on our platform, then that's perfectly fine. I think this just gives the customer a lot of choice as to what fits their bill the best.
Certainly, we talk about Cloud Smart, right? An initiative that we have been on the pathway here for at least a year, and we want to be able to put that customer in the best possible position to know their workloads on their own, whether that's running it on-prem, whether that's taking what is an existing on-prem stack and simply migrating it over to a vSphere-based hypervisor, in this instance OCVS, or using that as that stepping point to migrate that data as it's necessary over to refactoring it to cloud native if they choose.
Yeah. And hey,
Exactly.
Matt,
Exactly. Oh,
yeah, go.
I'm sorry. And just, you made a great point there around Cloud Smart, and that was actually another goal of this study, was that we didn't just benchmark Oracle, we benchmarked SQL Server, and migrated that over to OCVS in the same manner. And the purpose of that was to show that we could run any enterprise workload on OCVS. And I just said we have a great multi-cloud story, but sometimes it doesn't make sense to distribute those databases across multiple hyperscalers, whether that be native or a VMware based solution. So if latency is a concern, then you can run SQL Server and Oracle on OCVS, and if that fits your requirements, then more power to that solution.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been exposed to in the last month or so is AI ML models, right? And how the enterprise is segmenting out your AI ML compute resourcing, where they want to keep some of the workload on-prem because the models or whatever they're doing is critical, and they don't want that shared out in the cloud. And then you have other bits of it, like the database or whatever, that ends up in the cloud, and that's okay. And so enterprises are actually coming back to VMware, really looking at how to tease apart their AI/ML strategy. I'm just wondering if you guys, I would assume that Oracle being the database business and really caring about that would be something that they would be into as well, right? Which is huge data sets, but how much of it has to be on-prem versus how much of it has to be off-prem in the cloud, or what they're allowed to do in the cloud. Do you guys get any exposure into what's happening with AI and ML with that regard?
Well, as far as the services around AI and ML, and this actually speaks to any of the services that are offered by the hyperscalers, and certainly that's a benefit with OCVS, is that you can leverage the OCI services. But we do see customers looking at best of breed for, say, ML, MI, and then ML or AI, and then best of breed for analytics, best of breed for whatever service. And that doesn't necessarily hold true because it's what are the requirements of the deployment. Using the best of breed across multiple hyperscalers, whether that be native or one of our solutions, may not be the best fit. So we're seeing that what is the best landing zone for enterprise workloads? How can I leverage those services that are co-located by the hyperscalers like OCI? And that's how the decisions are kind of being predicated, not looking at best of breed. That'd be sort of akin to buying a car with I need a Ferrari engine and a Ford transmission and a whatever interior. How do you deploy that? I just support that. The common platform that we have with vSphere kind of answers all those questions, and again gives the customers choice wherever they want to land.
Right. Makes sense. Other question I had floating around in my head when I was listening to all this is the sales process itself, right? And like, how much is Oracle, much like VMware sells SaaS now, like even though we're billing cycles and we're selling vSphere in SaaS models. How much of what Oracle's doing also lends itself to their SaaS billing model, right? Where there's a lot of companies that want to move customers into SaaS environments, and so if I'm buying an Oracle product, they want to sell you into that SaaS revenue stream, and this is an easy way for them to do that because vSphere's there. They have they already have you have on-prem product. You're trying to move them into SaaS, and so here, we have this product, OCVS, that allows you to quickly do that, and then they're in the SaaS game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, having that SaaS model available is certainly another a plus. This is sold by Oracle, and we help out obviously wherever we can. So that's about the extent of that.
Just the extent of that. I was just looking at listen to how big Oracle is still, and Larry Ellison still, the fourth richest person on the planet, or some number like that, which is really striking. And you realize that, okay, there's a lot of backhand pressure here, just like we are always trying to move people into a SaaS footprint, and then they capture. I don't know if it's how much of it is capturing, compute in your cloud. They're selling compute cycles. But really, they're selling Oracle license cycles, and this is a great way for them to stay in business and keep the customer in their corner by offering OCVS, right? It's an easy sale, right? And I don't know, maybe that's just the way it happens now, but I see Oracle as a partner that customers can't walk away from, but they want to get into the cloud. So that's the way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, another reason why we did this co-logoed white paper with Oracle, AMD, and Deloitte, and a lot of people had kind of marveled at the fact that we were able to get all these people to co-logo the white paper. But the fact of the matter is, it's a great story for all of us. And, regardless of the SaaS model or whatever the selling model is, Oracle is so prevalent in the enterprise space that, it's really beneficial for VMware to be partnering heavily with them.
And I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about competitors here on this podcast. I forgot the rules are here, so stop me if I ask the wrong thing. But if you look at other people that would be in this space competing with Oracle, I got to imagine it's IBM, and we do stuff with IBM's cloud as well, right? Where they have a DB, they sell DB services to their enterprise. Are there other people does Oracle even have any serious cloud competitors, right? There's obviously MongoDB and the DBs, the new DBs, but just wondering who else is doing this that would even compete with them, because they're just so big.
Well, hard to say and hard to answer, because we really don't want to get into compare and contrast.
Right.
Other than we work with all the major hyperscalers, and again, we believe the differentiation with OCVS is, among other things, is the ability for the customer to fully manage their systems and really achieve zero refactoring.
Okay, I'll ask another question. How prominent is Oracle these days in the database market? Anybody know, what their total share of market is? Are they still the market leader in databases?
I believe so. I was actually trying to look up some of that information a couple of months ago, and I haven't seen any of the latest papers, so I can't attest to that one way or the other. Todd may be able to talk to that.
Todd, when it comes to one of the things that I'm reading through that we have linked it over to, and of course, Oracle has a corresponding blogs over on blogs.oracle.com on the OCVS solutions. And one of the subparagraphs that they call out is core density, right? The core density offerings that are available specifically for the AMD platform of 32, 64, or 128 cores per host, right? I'm thinking 128 cores per host, that we can get some really dense workloads on there. And as someone that does performance testing, where do we draw the line, or what have you seen as far as using higher density host as far as CPU count versus spreading that workload out? In other words, am I better off to, and I understand this gets a little bit of failure domains and whatnot, but from a pure performance perspective, is it safe to assume that we would be better with more cores and less hosts, or more hosts and less cores?
It depends a lot, of course. This is the typical performance answer. It depends.
The
So a
consultative
lot of times
answer,
memory,
sure.
memory comes into play a lot in these discussions, right? So like how much memory can you get per host can dictate things. But assuming you can get enough memory on your host to satisfy that side of it, more cores per host is usually a great thing. I'm able to push, lots of performance, get additional data praise performance out as additional cores are added to a host. So like I've tested with these AMD hosts with, the Milan is one that we did these tests with. It was a 64 cores per socket. And then the next generation is Genoa has 96. And then Bergamo, which I think is announced or is out now, has 128. So, and I've tested with all those, and I can get scalability as you go up. So in general, that's good. One of the things that's interesting is that AMD has these X processors. They have the Milan X processor that has additional cache memory added onto the processor. And those give you a nice boost for database performance. I've seen additional, get a good scaling of that with Oracle and SQL Server, for example. So in some of these cases where your license per core at the database level or at other software levels, it makes sense to go with these processors that have the bigger caches because you can get more bang for your buck per core. In those cases. It's something. This is all as it depends. You'd have to try it out with your specific workload. But I'm just saying in general.
Well, there's a couple of follow-ups with that, right? So one, I would think that with this solution, again, we had talked about that doing that one-on-one testing, right, where we don't necessarily have to deploy a full-blown 3-node cluster, where we could, if we wanted to do total due diligence on this, deploy multiple single-node instances and run that workload on it to see what the performance variations would be, right? Whereas if you would do that traditionally on an on-premises data center, unless you had a really good relationship with your OE or your channel partner, that could get prohibitively expensive real quick. My other follow-up with that would be workloads change, right? This is the ever change, certainly the era of ever-changing workloads. And let's say we spec out, a 6-node cluster that has 128 cores, and then the next new AMD revision comes in, right? That new chip architecture is out there. Do I need to spin up a separate cluster and then migrate through traditional, vMotion over to that cluster, or can I add certain net new nodes into an existing cluster that are out there with this solution? How does let's take this forward to let's call it 6-month or year 2 operations when that database intensifies, or through M&A we pick up a mega database that needs a lot of storage capacity that wasn't factored into that initial workload criteria that made us pick the host profiles that we did. How do we life cycle capacity in? Well,
so you can add hosts of the next generation in with the current generation cluster. If you want to have complete vMotion compatibility, which you would,
right?
You have to go with
all our same on-prem rules, I'm sure, apply here. But I'm just curious if there's any unique intricacies to OCVS when it comes to bringing those additional hosts on board with a newer proc.
I'm not aware of anything that would be specific to their cloud that would make this more complicated than it is. And there's we have a lot of flexibility with our platform with vMotion to be able to migrate things around. So I'm saying there's some complexities in understanding the details, but at the end of the day, you're able to move your workloads over pretty much seamlessly to the new generation. You just have to work through exactly what you want to do. If you want to, entertain some, brief downtime in order to make sure you upgrade your virtual machines to the latest virtual hardware and get that latest thing, or if you're okay with staying and moving over. So some CPU generations, there's big differences in instruction sets, and it makes a big difference. And then in other generations, maybe there's not. So, you can decide. But most people can usually afford a little bit of downtime to shut the VMs down, move them over to a new host, power them back up in a planned way.
Sure.
So it's not a huge deal.
Todd, is there any other factor? I mean, you do performance testing for a living. Is there, as it relates to this particular solution, was there any data points or let's just call it unknowns that were out there, or dare I even say anomalies that came across in your testing that you looked at and went, "Oh, wow, that's really key as far as I/O throughput or CPU utilization or memory ballooning or any other factor that came in as part of that testing that the customer should be aware of as it relates to OCVS?"
There wasn't any. I mean, the most surprising thing was the OCVS storage was that much better to make a difference.
And we're attributing that to the next generation of that NVMe backend.
Yeah, they had newer NVMEs than I did. We were able to do this testing really quickly. I think we had the systems for like a week and a half, and we're able to move the VMs over because I'd already done the testing on-prem, and so I did a cross vCenter migration like I mentioned, and then cloned the VM out to the number that I needed, and we ran through the tests pretty uneventfully. So it was everything was good. There wasn't anything. Sometimes you go into performance testing, you run into issues. You've got to troubleshoot. But in this case, we really didn't have any issues.
Matt, it's just mind blowing to listen to this because I haven't been around the CPUs that much, and I'm just looking at online in AMD, EPYC, EPYC, Genoa, 3.1 gigahertz, 64 cores, 128 threads for like $3,500, right?
Well, you think about that, right? The core density and then the backplane to support all of that with next gen NVMe throughput and
yeah. But to Todd's point, to test now, you could just put the whole infrastructure right there on a single machine and just run the test because there's so many cores there that you don't actually have to put it to too many machines. It's just
the 2 terabytes of memory that are the standard memory profile for these denser hosts. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. These are 2 socket hosts that we're working with, that's the part that blows my mind.
Double it. Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of cores for 2 sockets.
Yeah, if you have that application out there that hasn't migrated from socket to cores as of yet, this might be a win all around, right? You could certainly the density there with what you can get out of 2 sockets now is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and that might actually be a good segue for kind of Todd to talk about how we're leveraging the AMD architecture because you guys are mentioning increased core counts. And, fundamentally, we point out that you just can't continue to add cores without having cache contention. Sure. So there is a, pretty ingenious way that AMD came up and that we leverage. So Todd, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah. So with EPYC, one of the big things that AMD did was they changed the way the caches are laid out on the cores. So traditionally, a single socket had a single L3 cache, but with EPYC, they now have multiple L3 caches within each processor. So you kind of have these mini domains within.
So not only is it on die, but then it's sectored on the die itself.
Yes. So certain cores are kind of grouped, they are grouped with their own L3. So like each 8 core. How they did the implementation cores per LL3 cache, but the point is that there's this difference, and so what we did was we made started in ESX 7.0 U2. So this is like a year and a half ago. We introduced a scheduler enhancement where the ESXi scheduler is now aware of these differences, and will make scheduling decisions based around that. So it ends up being more efficient, and it is able to take advantage of the cores, and it gives you an additional, it depends on the workload, of course, 10 to 15 to 20% performance boost because of the scheduling advantage that we have. So in the paper that Bob and I published, specifically with Oracle and SQL Server, we saw about a 10% boost from using this the scheduler enhancement. So this scheduler enhancement is default. You don't.
So it's not like there's a flag on the installer, or of course, in this particular deployment, it's aware and ready to go that out of the box. Is there anything on the guest that needs enabled for this to be taken advantage of? I think we might have lost Todd there for a second. Bob, are you aware if there's anything that needs to be enabled on the guest?
No. But by default, it's enabled, and there's nothing on the guest that needs to be enabled or disabled. During the testing, Todd was able to disable the optimizations only so that we can get the performance.
To see the recursion, sure, right. But what's the advantage?
Yeah, exactly. So it's baked into 7.0 update 2 and beyond. I think, Todd, you back?
I think Todd's having some L3 performance cache issues of his own. There he is. Now we're back up to speed.
And Todd, if you feel free to turn off your camera.
I think that might help. I'll turn it off.
Yeah. Just feel free to turn off your camera. That way you get better bandwidth here on us if you have network problems. But yeah, and we're mostly audio on this podcast, so no big deal.
So yeah, sorry about that. So the L3 cache. So with the new schedule, we get this boost. We're able to show that with the testing. But this is the point I was trying to make. I think when I got cut off is that this is the default parameter or the default way the scheduler works now. So there's nothing that you have to go in and do to enable this. We turned it off and did some tests to illustrate, hey, we're getting this performance boost. But that's something that's audit. It's the default, like I said. So you'll be getting that. All customers will be getting that are using the AMD EPYC processors.
Todd, Bob, we had talked how close we are to Explore with just 26 days away. Is there sessions on this topic at Explore? Will either of you be presenting? If a customer or partner is out there and listening along to this particular podcast, and they're going to be attending Explore, is there a particular session that you would advise them, or sessions to advise them to attend?
Well, for sure, they should attend our session. So
session number is?
I don't have that handy, but if you search on Todd or my name, it'll come up. I don't even have the I don't.
Goldsand being just as you would think, GOLDSAND, or Muirhead MUIRHEAD.
Yeah, you have a better chance of spelling Bob's name than mine, so you probably remember that one.
But yes, there are a number of sessions. Oracle is actually sponsoring our session. There's also going to be events scheduled around the OCVS session. So following our session, I believe AMD, Oracle, Deloitte, and VMware will be hosting a happy hour, although it's 2 hours, not just 1 hour. So from 5 to 7, right before the party.
Does that party have a high host count, or a high host and core count, right?
Yeah, it does. And it's optimized for our customers.
Yeah, optimized for customers and for workload. Fantastic.
Yeah. And our white paper, I believe you'll be able to scan QR codes in the AMD booth, Oracle booth, and our booth, of course. And you'll have direct links to the paper that we just released.
We'll throw this in the show notes, but for those that are listening along, the session number is Charlie Echo India, Bravo 2992 Lima Victor Sam, CEIB 2992 LVS is Bob and Todd's session that is being sponsored on Oracle on this topic. Sign up there in the content catalog. Add that to your session builder for Explore this year if you are interested in this topic.
Matt, thanks for that. But I actually should add that I don't have the details yet, but our session has also been accepted into Oracle Cloud World, which will be happening the following month. So we'll be happy to update the details as far as the session ID, and times and dates. And even
Fantastic.
even in the blog that Todd posted, because there's so much activity around the white paper and the sessions, he's updating all that information, so it's all in one location if someone's looking for it.
Eric, as we near the top of the hour, I'm going to throw it back to you. What other questions do you have for Bob or Todd?
I don't have a lot because we are running to the top of the hour and we want to be respectful of everybody's time. So we'll transition to the barbecue report because, I hear that one of the two of you are from Texas, and therefore Texas barbecue is, right up there on the top of the land. So we'll always ask, go to, if you want to learn more, go read the blog article, and we'll put that in the comments to the podcast. So, go look at that. And then we'll do the barbecue report, and we'll get Tony Foster in here from Kansas out there where I've been told it's 105, but let's go to Todd first. We ask at the end of that, we do live stream on VBarbecue. If you want to look at what Bob and Todd looks like, you can go to youtube.com/VBarbecue, BARBECUE, and check out what they look like. So you'll recognize them at Explore, go to their session. So let's go with Todd. Todd, where do you barbecue? Do you barbecue? And do you have a style you like?
So I'm partial to Texas barbecue, of course. So everybody's heard about Franklin's, I would assume, in Austin.
Yes.
Which is great. It's really good, but it's almost impossible to get. It's too hard. So my recommendation instead is go to Terry Black's, which is also in Austin, but it's reasonable to get into. You can walk up and get in line and have some great barbecue in short order.
Todd, I have an important question for you, and you take your time on this one. Texas chili, beans or no beans?
Okay, so this is a big question.
It is.
Right.
This is a point of contention. I have seen people try to go up and die on this hill.
So I agree that technically it's not chili once you put beans into it, but I like it. It's good. It tastes good. I like it, but yeah, it's not really chili as far as
that's the proper answer. It's a proper answer, Todd.
That's good. They're both ways are good. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to have to go Wikipedia that. And then whoever is the author of the Wikipedia article, I'm going to yell at them, right? Because chili from my standpoint always had beans in it. But then I'm from the Northeast, right? Where, we were starving and we didn't have that much beef. We didn't have cattle ranches in our backyard with oil fields. So maybe, we just need the beans to stretch out the red sauce with the meat. I don't know. Yeah. But,
Bob's thoughts on all thing barbecue. Bob, where are you located, if you don't mind sharing with our audience, and what's your favorite barbecue?
Yeah, I'm located in Northern California. The accent may say I'm from New York, which I am, but I've been out here for 40 years. My kids have been born out here, so they all root for the wrong sports teams. But I don't get very much good barbecue out in California. I may have trouble walking the streets after this, but I love Texas barbecue. I love Kansas City. I love barbecue, period. It's
interesting. Yeah. Well, you need to go down to Santa Maria, California, down there, out in the cow fields down there. They got some good barbecue down there, but they don't do barbecue sauce or anything. It's all just meat on a grill. They believe down there that if you put anything on your meat, you're not barbecuing it. It should all come from the coals, right? And the smoke from the fire. They're not they'll do some rubs down there in Santa Maria, but other than that, there's a place in Santa Maria. I can't remember the name. I want to say Saddle Rack, but I don't think that's it. But there are some really good barbecue places down in Southern California that we're going to have to send Bob on a road trip, when he goes down there.
I'm in. Not a big fan of tri-tip though, but.
If you don't like tri-tip, then don't go down there because that's pretty much what they serve. You can get a good steak too, but there you go. Tony Foster, I know you joined. It's 105 in Kansas. What's up there? Did you just put your meat out on the out in the sun and it just cooks?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you just throw it out on the hood of your car. It'll sizzle for you. You'll have food in about an hour.
Yeah, that's not true. I tried that. You actually need like 140 degrees, on your metal, but maybe 105 will get up to 140 on the metal.
You could just open up the door and you can bake it inside then if you want to do
That's
it that
right.
way.
You could bake it.
Yes.
I hear you can do sous vide off the coast of Florida right now, if anyone's interested in that.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah. Actually, here a couple days ago, I did cheddar brats on the grill and made a killer onion sauce to go with them on the grill. Start out with a base of onions and add a little bit of oil, get them nice and caramelized, and then start making a sauce, just a touch of barbecue sauce, just to simplify the cooking. Some garlic, throw in a little bit of whiskey, and a few other spices in there. Let that simmer down, and you get this great onion reduction sauce that is killer on brats.
So brats, for those people that don't know, are like sausages, German sausages. So
Yes.
what's a cheddar brat? That's like a cheese brat with like infused cheese bits in it.
Yep. So when they process it, they throw chunks of cheddar in there, mix it all up, and then shove it in the sausage casing.
Tony, when you serve this to your guests, do you give them the business card of a cardiovascular surgeon?
Yeah.
Well, I do know a few of those. But yeah, you don't eat a lot.
You got to get ready for
of
the
them.
winter. You got to get ready for the winter. Those Kansas swept fields get pretty chilly out there. Right. It's worth it.
Absolutely.
Bob, Todd, thanks for coming on today. We appreciate your presence here. We're looking forward to your session at Explore and the updates that are coming to the blog post. Stay tuned over on blogs.vmware.com. And of course, additional content over on the corresponding blogs.oracle.com as it relates to OCVS.
All right.
Great. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks, Bob. Go get your Explore tickets. It's going to be a great time. Till then, go get some barbecue, and we'll be back again next week. As always, Wednesday, 12 to 1. If you want to drop in live, we'll put you on the stream and say hello.